How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of Beared Down Uncut, the show where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Just a couple of minutes ago, the Bears officially put out their 53-man roster. It's been a flurry of a day of cuts, a lot of surprise moves, a lot of surprise players that have made the roster today. We're going to be looking at the entire 53-man roster, talking about who surprised us that made it, who surprised us that got cut, and overall, just reviewing this roster. Before we get into it, I would like to say the support all summer, all fall has been incredible. If you guys want the most comprehensive Bears coverage on the web, we're going to keep coming back to you guys each and every day with videos. Do us a favor wherever you are listening, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Drop a like, subscribe, follow, and keep joining us. It's going to be a long journey this season, and you guys keep motivating us, so we want to keep pumping out as much content for you all as possible. I am your host, Chris Malpe. Today, to break down this 53-man roster, I am joined with my co-host, Jaylen McClinton. Jaylen, what's going on, man?
It's going good. Definitely a crazy cut down day. A lot of shockers. I think the real the first one was seeing Cam Newton get cut. Definitely didn't expect that. You should have seen my reaction when I looked at my phone, and I think that was Parcello. It was like, yeah, the Patriots have released Cam Newton, but definitely a lot of shockers on the cuts for the Bears too. I know we'll talk about it, but cut down day is always an interesting day in the NFL.
Yeah, Cam Newton was a surprising one. I think the Bears are going to be active. They're in the 20th spot on the waiver wire. When it comes to claiming players, I'm sure they're going to be in the market for offensive linemen, possibly a wide receiver or two, cornerbacks, linebackers. So there's a lot to look forward to. But there's also a 53-man roster that we've got to look over that have a lot of star players, a lot of surprises. So let's get into it. We're just going to start by taking a look at the roster, and let's look down and see what the Bears have got. So starting off, obviously at the quarterback position, the Bears only kept two, Nick Foles and Andy Dalton. Justin Fields, unfortunately, did not make this 53-man roster. I am obviously kidding. That's a very corny joke. Three quarterbacks, Dalton, Fields, and Foles. We'll see if they can move on from Foles soon with a trade. Three running backs made the roster, with Tariq Cohen being on the PUP list. That'll be David Montgomery, Damian Williams, and Khalil Herbert, who got the third spot. Artavis Pierce was waived, but look for him to come back on the practice squad. The Bears kept five receivers. My man, Rodney Adams, he did it. He is wide receiver 5 for the Bears behind Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Marquise Godwin, and Damiere Byrd. Rodney Adams makes the roster after having one of the better preseasons we've seen any Bear have in quite some time. The Bears held on to 5 tight ends. I thought they were going to go with 4. J.P. Holtz, they actually did stick on to him. Also, Jimmy Graham, Cole Kmet, Jesse James, and Jesper Horsted. So no real surprises there. 10 offensive linemen the Bears kept. They cut Dieter Easelin. He's someone who will probably come back on the practice squad if he isn't picked up in waivers. The Bears kept Alex Bars, Larry Borum, James Daniels, Jermaine Fetty, a second-round pick out of Oklahoma State, Tevin Jenkins, Sam Mustipher, Jason Peters recently signed, Lachavious Simmons, Cody Whitehair, and Elijah Wilkerson. Defensive linemen, they kept 5. Angelo Blackson, very good run stuffer throughout the preseason, was impressive in camp. Eddie Goldman, he is back. Akeem Hicks, Bilal Nichols, and the 7th-round rookie who was solid, Khyiris Tonga. They kept 7 inside linebackers, Joel Ubuniwe. That's a little bit of a surprise. Jalen's guy, who he predicted a couple days ago, or Parth's guy, someone who Parth predicted, but we all liked, made the roster. Caleb Johnson, Christian Jones, Alec Ogletree, another late addition by Ryan Pace, Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan, and Josh Woods at outside linebacker. The Bears held on to 4. Jeremiah Atochu, someone who was claimed in free agency from the Denver Broncos. Trevis Gibson, who was the highest graded edge rusher in all of the preseason per Pro Football Focus. Khalil Mack, obviously, and then Robert Quinn. 4 cornerbacks. The Bears are definitely going to be in the market to pick up some of these guys. They've got Jalen Johnson, Duke Shelley, Kendall Vildor, and Xavier Crawford. 4 safeties, Deion Bush, DeAndre Houston Carson, Tashawn Gibson, and Eddie Jackson. Then obviously the 3 special teams players, Pat O'Donnell, Cairo Santos, and Patrick Scales. So that rounds out the 53 for the Bears. Let's start with the cuts. Jaylen, obviously the question says, who was the most surprising cut, but there were a lot of surprises. The Bears moved on from both of their 6th-round picks, Dazz Newsome and Thomas Graham Jr. Hopefully they can get one of, if not both of them back. But to you, from what you saw today out of Chicago, Desmond Trufant, obviously another one that went, who was the most surprising cut? Or you can name a couple from what the Bears did today.
I definitely have I'm going with the 6th-round draft picks. Thomas Graham Jr., I think he was the first one that really surprised us. And then when they cut Dazz Newsome. As you can see, we only have 4 cornerbacks on this roster. Thomas Graham could have been a 5th, and obviously I'm pretty sure we would still put in a waiver claim for a veteran corner or undrafted rookie who showed out or who showed some flashes in preseason, and add to the depth. But we'd cut him. I don't know why. I guess you could say he hasn't really showed any flashes or anything to keep him on the roster in preseason. But I would have to disagree. I think that was the Buffalo Bills game. It wasn't an interception because the ball hit the ground, but he still made a great play on the ball. I know he was having his moments here and there in training camp. And same thing with Daz. Only really moment he had was last week when he had that 19-yard catch. But that showed you what he can do for this offense. I'm pretty sure he wasn't going to play much, but if we did have a receiver go down or miss some time, that I'm pretty sure Dazz Newsome could come in and give us some type of speed on this offense as well as his contribute. He can contribute on special teams. We've seen that him return some punts during preseason. So I think those are definitely the 2 biggest shockers to me. Another one with Charles Snowden. I feel like he could have had a chance to make this roster.
Definitely someone they should probably try and bring back on the practice.
Yeah, I would keep him on the roster over Tachi just because of his upside. But that's just me. So, but everybody else wasn't huge shockers, but mainly those 2 because we literally just drafted them 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 were definitely surprises for me. I think in the past we've seen players that Ryan Pace has drafted in that year be locks, like on the roster no matter what. Maybe a couple practice squad guys like Latavius Simmons and Arlington Hambright were last year. So hopefully we can get Newsome and Graham back. I'll be completely honest, I didn't see a ton from Graham when I was at camp. It might be that he took a year off at Oregon before and was still kicking off some rust, but I was really surprised by the Newsome cut. He's someone who plays at I think a higher speed than what it actually shows. He's someone who, when he's in the open field and he was catching most every ball that was thrown his way, he was making plays throughout camp. Really nice on some underneath short routes. So I was pretty surprised by that one. If I had to pick one of those 2 to bring back, I'd probably say Dazz Newsome if it came down to it. One that wasn't essentially a surprise for me, but a little bit saddening just because he's not going to come back is Riley Ridley. The Bears spent a 4th-round pick on him a couple of years ago, and we saw him be better in this preseason. I'll be completely honest. I think he was better than he was in years past in this year's preseason, but just so many drops from him. It's unfortunate, and I'm not sure where he's going to be headed. Maybe Atlanta with his brother Calvin, but
that would be funny. I would totally watch that.
Yeah, and he's another player that the Bears put a lot into. Another receiver drafted by Ryan Pace, among the likes of Anthony Miller and Kevin White, that just didn't pan out. So that was a little disappointing. And then I'd say the only other real big surprise for me, I haven't gotten a chance to look through all of the cuts just yet. I didn't see Trey Roberson or Artie Burns listed at cornerback, so that was a little surprising. I thought one of them was going to stick around. But Desmond Trufant was a shocker for me, to be completely honest. I thought he was at least going to stick around here for a little bit, play a couple games, and Kendall Vildor's play has also not essentially slipped up a ton, but a little bit during the preseason. He's allowed a couple completions and such, and I'm still confident in him. But Trufant's a seasoned veteran, and there were murmurs here at the end that he was going to be cut, and we saw it happen. So Desmond Trufant, the seasoned veteran from the Atlanta Falcons, who recently made a Pro Bowl, or a couple years ago made a Pro Bowl, and also spent some good time as the cornerback 1 in Detroit, is not going to be on this Bears roster. So that was definitely a surprising one for me. Let's move on to players that did make the roster. I'm going to start off here. Any surprises that made the roster? Not a surprise, one I'm happy about, someone I've clamored about the entire preseason and training camp, Rodney Adams. Really well-deserved for him. Same for Jesse James. He was someone that was brought in late, had to earn a spot. Same goes for Alec Ogletree. Comes in here, works really hard, and gets a spot at that linebacker position. I'm trying to think, looking at the list. I mean, Khalil Herbert, kudos to him. Artavis Pierce was someone who had some upside when the Bears got him last year, and Herbert, the rookie out of Virginia Tech, beat him out. One that I'm surprised did make the roster was Elijah Wilkinson. He's someone who's shown flashes in the past with the Denver Broncos, but did not look good this preseason. So I'm a little bit surprised about that. I don't like talking about negative surprises. Caleb Johnson had a good preseason and made the roster. I hope he can get in the rotation. And I thought EU Booneway or Woods, one of their times was going to come, similar to Ridley and Wims. But we saw them both make the roster, so that's an interesting one as well. Damian Williams, I thought maybe could have been a piece that they could have moved on from if they liked what they had, if they liked the youth that they had there at the running back position. But Damian Williams is someone who has won in the playoffs and was with Matt Nagy, so that does not surprise me essentially too much at all. But Jaylen, not many surprises here. I mean, a lot of the players that we thought were going to make the roster have made the roster. So anyone that surprised you that made the roster, either in a good or in a bad way?
Oh my God. Caleb Johnson. I think it was me. I think me and Parth talked about Caleb Johnson because he was around the ball so much. He had 3 fumble recoveries in two games and had 2 in 1 game. So, him making an initial roster. I don't know if he will be on the roster tomorrow after cuts and stuff like that, but obviously he's a player that pace or the defense Sean Desai is intrigued by, and I don't blame him. Like I said, he was around the ball a lot. Somebody coming out of a small college who just start having a college program. I think they started playing college football in like 2013. So, kudos to him. But I think that would pretty be much. That would be about it.
Round of applause for Rodney Adams.
Yeah, I mean, if you're surprised that Rodney Adams made this team,
I'm not. I was a little bit.
No,
weary.
I'm talking about like in general. Obviously, I know me. You know where we should have been on the team.
Well, I was a little bit. I gotta be honest. I was a little bit weary because of him versus Ridley. But once they cut Ridley, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, once they cut Javon, I knew. I texted you this. Once we cut Javon, I knew Rodney was going to make the roster. But I didn't see anything about them cutting Jon'Vea.
Yeah, he didn't make the roster, so clearly. There was a lot of there were a lot of moves that like didn't get much publicity.
Yeah, definitely.
I
didn't even know we really start Tavis until I seen the roster.
Yeah, I didn't know that Trey Roberson and Artie Burns were cut. I definitely thought the Bears could hold on to one of them.
Yeah, I seen that. Trey Roberson's injured.
I'm a busy guy. I'm working all day, and then I have tennis practice.
Yeah, I have nothing else to do, but look at who the Bears cut all day. So
yeah, well. Let us know down in the comments what you think about the Bears' 53-man roster. We're going to be making a video probably tomorrow, I'd assume, predicting who the Bears are going to bring back for the practice squad. That's a video we've done a couple of years in a row, and there's definitely some intriguing targets, not only from the Bears' roster, players that they just cut, but other teams that the Bears hopefully would look to retain. So that should be an interesting one coming to you guys tomorrow. We're going to talk about
some people who we claimed as well. Hopefully we can get.
Yeah, should be. It's going to be an interesting next 24 hours on the waiver wires. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting targets coming to the Bears. But thank you guys so much for listening in to episode 156 of Uncut. If you want more content from us, click the link at the top of the description to head to our website, beareddown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs each and every day to get you guys ready for the season that starts in just 11 days for the Chicago Bears. 11, is it still August? 12, my bad, 12 days for the Bears. It's really coming around the corner. It's going to be here before we know it, and there's a lot of people working hard on our website, so be sure to check it out. If you'd like to enter giveaways that we have, we try and do them bi-monthly. A Justin Fields jersey giveaways definitely in the works here, coming up soon. If you would like to see special guests that we have on the show, sneak peeks of that, and also let us know what you want to see on the podcast, you can find us on social media at Beared Down on Instagram as well as Twitter. And finally, you can find the links to mine and Jaylen's social media pages down in the description. Our Instagram and Twitter pages are both great follows. That's where you can see our thoughts on all things Bears, the National Football League, and the entirety of Chicago sports. Jaylen McClinton, feels good to just continue to pump out videos, man. We're getting closer and closer. It hasn't been as much of a grind as last season was for us, but we've got a really loyal fan base that continues to come back and support us. So it feels good just to get the recognition and continue to put out stuff. I love talking Bears. I could do this for 4 hours, but any last words before we sign off?
Hopefully we get some corners. We need some. We need like 3 or 4. We need something because the way these corners, like I know I said this on Twitter. Chris was like, he was like, you got your wish, you can do Vador's, CB number 2.
He said, I might regret that statement.
Yeah, I definitely might regret that statement after he looked in preseason. I get it's preseason and they're not really scheming up. I don't think nobody schemes in preseason. If you do that, you're just like a tryhard. I'm pretty sure the Ravens do it because they want to.
Hey man, it's on the record. You did say it. It's on the record.
Yeah, so like I'm not. I don't like I said. I don't know if I'm happy about that statement, but
I think it's a little too early to retract that statement.
Yeah, I'm not saying, oh my God, he shouldn't be on the roster, but like I said, after preseason, he didn't look very good. But once again, it's preseason. We don't know how he's going to look when the whole defense is playing together. But once again, I definitely feel like we need to add some people.
Yeah, and while it's a little too early to retract your statement about Kindle Vildor, I also think it's not too late to retract my statement against about Desmond Trufant because we're going to see Vildor probably suit up at cornerback too, and should be interesting. But the potential's definitely there, and he put together a good 2020 season.
If only we had Kevin Tolliver.
Yeah, man. I can't say that about Wims anymore. You and I back in 2017 we're really repping. But the Bears will be really active looking for some offensive tackles and cornerbacks. Specifically, there's a lot of targets that the Bears will have an opportunity to look at and possibly pick up a lot of interesting prospects from other teams that were released. So it should be an interesting next couple of days as we get closer to the season. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to be your host. Once again, my name is Chris Malpe, and Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.